Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Any
Yes,
questions
sir.
from what we discussed last week? Okay. In case no questions, so uh,
Hello. Uh,
yeah, Kritika.
so just wanted to wish you a very happy Teachers' Day.
Thank you. So in the last class, I think we shared a lot of
Hello.
ideas and completed. Yeah,
Yeah, good morning. Happy Teachers' Day.
yeah. Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
I have one question regarding last class. Have we
Mhm.
done leverage buyout?
Sorry, you've done what?
LBO.
No, so I think as a session plan or as a program structure, we've not yet done LBO, but I think if what I remember, somebody from your batch asked what is LBO, and so I briefly explained. But in terms of LBO as a topic, it will come as a part of this program. So हम वहाँ पे करेंगे. But in the last class, somebody asked me something on the LBO, and that's what I explained.
Okay, we'll cover it in detail in later class. Okay.
Yeah. So private equity हमने discuss कर लिया था. So we discuss about general partners, limited partners. We discussed about angel investors, hedge funds, VC, uh, fund of fund. Okay, so I think we've done with this pieces. So ये डू पॉइंट का एक फॉर्मूला होता है. ये रेशियो जब एनालिसिस कराऊंगा तब करेंगे. मैं कराऊंगा या जो भी कराएगा. सो ये रेशियो एनालिसिस में आपका पार्ट होगा. So if it comes to me, I will do this. Otherwise, who is taking that should do this. तो आप नोट कर सकते हैं कहीं पे कि डू पॉइंट एनालिसिस अभी नहीं करा है. जब रेशियो एनालिसिस के आपके सेशंस होंगे उसमें ये कवर होगा. So ये पीस.
So slide is not visible if it is on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You see now?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I was telling that we've done with this private equity piece. There's a small section on this dew point analysis. Okay. So this dew point analysis, I will skip this couple of slides. This topic should be done in ratio analysis. So आप कहीं note करके रख लो that we've not done this, and we should do this when we do the topic called ratio analysis. So if it comes to me, I will take that. Otherwise, whoever taking that topic, it's a part of ratio analysis. Distressed asset मैंने बता दिया था, correct? If I'm not wrong. You discussed distressed asset in the last class, right?
Yes, sir. You told us about it.
Okay, तो ये भी हो गया है. Secondary investment भी मैंने बता दिया था, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Mezzanine भी discuss कर लिया. So I think this concludes this piece. Yeah, I think we were on this slide. ये भी मैंने बता दिया था आपको. So I think we've done this. So we'll start from this just to quickly wrap this up. So in terms of benefits of the private equity, what are the benefits of private equity? So it's primarily into unlisted companies because for an unlisted company going out for an IP or FP is practically not possible. So that's such an advantage. So it's private equity allows the unlisted company to raise money, especially on the equity side. It helps the companies to grow, and it private equity, as we discussed in the earlier sessions, that private equity can help the company to raise funds at different stages. It's not that they will only give the funding at the seed stage. So that's what is being explained through this pick as well, that the funding can happen at any stage where you are in initial stage where you are growing, or when you are grown and you are at maturity, it can happen in any stage. Uh, Otherwise, more or less, it's pretty simple. आप देख लीजिए इस पे कोई point आपको लग रहा हो. So validation of the business model by the investor, what does this mean? So suppose if a big private equity firm invests in your business model, it means it's an acceptance. Then once you board one private equity on the board, then relatively you find it easy to convince others, because if you're able to convince one, the way the market looks at it, you have got validation or acceptance from some investor, which means the business model has some sense in it. It is not a guarantee that it will now become success, but as I said, relatively it becomes relatively easy for you to get through. It helps you to build credibility in the market, gives business opportunities because of the network of the PE investors we discussed earlier. PE not only gives you money, but they also bring their contacts, they bring their expertise, and they start helping you to grow as overall business. So we'll pause here for 30 seconds. कुछ पूछना है slides में तो पूछो. Any questions out in this slide? Okay. Now, issues, problems, limitations. There's no market value. You don't know what's the price of the stock, which is obvious. The second issue is no disclosures. It's a private unlisted company, so they will not publish the results on quarterly basis. They will not disclose too many information, which is what's being done in a public company. So in a public company, you know what's happening. In an unlisted company, you don't know too much what's happening. Again, there's a problem of the market valuation. Nobody knows what's the value. Everybody's trying to value their own basis, their individual perception, and there's no benchmark or there's no parameter to decide what is right and wrong, and hence there's a high degree of subjectivity. The problem or risk of stale valuation, which means you've done a valuation, let's say 3 months back or let's say 6 months back. You don't know what's the value today, but in a listed company, if you've done a valuation 6 months back, you can look at the stock price today and say, okay, what's the value as of today, rather than relying on the valuation 6 months back. But in an unlisted company, a private equity, that's not possible. We've discussed this. These are illiquid investments. When I say illiquid investment, you can't get out easily. These are long-term investments. So fifth and sixth point both are linked to each other. Because it's a long-term investment, it in some shape and form, it becomes a form of illiquid investment. Okay, so I think this completes private equity. Any questions in the last part where we discuss advantages and limitations or issues of private equity before we close this section? Any questions in private equity?
It is written there, private equity is an inefficient market.
Yeah.
How's?
What do you mean efficient market? Efficient market means where the buyer and seller or the people involved can validate what's the price. They can validate the information. In a private equity space, you can't validate. So let's assume you are a seller of the company. You are owner of the company. You want to sell your shares. You believe your share price is worth 100 rupees per share, and I am the buyer. I believe the price is 2 rupees per share. We will keep on negotiating, and the third person comes and says, okay, the value, he believes the value is 80 rupees per share. who knows what is the right and wrong? There's a pure subjectivity involved, and hence that's called as inefficient. कोई तरीका नहीं है, कोई common parameter नहीं है validate करने का, find out करने का, verify करने का कि who is right and who is wrong. That's why it's called as inefficient market.
Then how it is ultimately evaluated?
We discussed, correct? It's purely a subjective call, individual
Okay.
subjectivity. So point number 3, a high degree of subjectivity that comes in, and that's another problem. That's the reason the individuals, retail investors, generally do not find very easy to invest. They don't understand what's happening here, because it's a domain which is more complicated than the public equity space.
Okay. Can you share any example of a private equity company?
Yeah. So I think I should show a couple of names. Yeah, these are some of the examples of of the private equity players. These are decent players in the market. And the reason why I've stick to these names because I've not done any deals for these. Most of the other uh, names we have done deals. That's why I don't take those names, and these are the names which is we've not done.
Okay.
Anything else, guys? Private equity, mein? This is a very important piece, both from an interview perspective and from career perspective. Very aggressive from a job market perspective. So even in a current scenario, this pandemic, so we this is one of those sectors where still there were certain jobs, and as and when market starts coming back to the normal situation or normal levels where it was before Feb or Jan levels. This is one of the segments where you would see again an aggressive uh, openings and jobs. The reason because the way the way now India is heading, there will be a lot of new startups. There will be a lot of there will be a lot of there will be there will be a lot of investments moving into the unlisted companies, either to expand their existing business or either to start a new business, which might be happening in countries like China earlier. And because of geopolitical situation and what's happening between India and China, there's a possibility those business might shift back to India. Shift back to India means the currently some of the parts, some of the pieces might be happening in China and some of the pieces might be happening in India or vice versa. But this is the kind of in geopolitical issue. It's very likely most of these people will move to other countries, and India could be one of those. Hence, most of these funding will happen through private equity space, and if this happens through private equity space, there would be an aggressive volumes from a transaction from a deal perspective, and hence I believe this is one of the important sectors. Those who are interested is something that you can probably try and see more aggressive positions coming out into this segment in future. So hence, from an interview perspective and both from a career perspective, this is one of those important sections. So last time, any questions, any doubt on this before I close it? Okay, so I take no questions. I take the silence as no questions. We'll move to the next section. Equity research. Now, uh, so trying to keep this simple into two parts. Equity research, break this into two parts. Equity, which is we have discussed, owners funds or investment in the capacity of owners, or equity share of the company represents the ownership in the company. And research is gathering in information. You're finding out, you're trying to find some information. So that's right. If I combine this, means you're trying to get the information, you're trying to serve some information, you're trying to evaluate some information for the equity investments. So that's what the equity research means. And before I go and explain this, uh, let me um, take an example. Say suppose I'm not sure whether we discussed this earlier or not, but so suppose uh, Parul, अगर आपको if you want to buy a mobile phone for yourself or a handset for yourself, what's the what approach would you follow to select which handset you should buy?
Battery backup.
No, I'm not
Best
asking
battery
you
backup.
specific feature. I'm asking you what approach, what overall approach that you will find. So suppose today you've decided that you want to buy a new handset. What
Hmm.
what would be your approach before you finally decide and finally you purchase the handset for yourself? How would you take it forward?
I'll take feedback from few people.
You will directly start from feedback.
No, I'll check on Google first.
That's what I'm asking you. Tell me what would you do, correct? So if today you decide or you feel there's a need for you to buy a new handset, what would you do now? In the same chronological order, what you would genuinely follow. In case you've not done this or you will not want to do this and you rely for somebody else to give you an opinion, then let me know. Then I will pass on this question to somebody else.
First, I'll check on available sites which are the best sets available in the market currently. Then I'll shortlist one or two or three. Then I'll compare them, the prices, the performance, and then select one based on the. I'll also discuss it with some other people or from online checking at which one is the best to buy as per the current scenario.
Okay. So this is technically a mobile phone research that you're doing, that you want to decide for yourself which mobile or which handset you want to buy for yourself. Let's assume if you want to buy some equity shares of the company, then you do the same process of shortlisting certain stocks, trying to gather more information for each of those stocks, and if possible, you can speak to somebody who can give you the inputs. When you do the same process for deciding where you should invest from an equity perspective or not, that same approach is called as equity research. यहाँ तक किसी को doubt, because this is a fundamental base, and before I start throwing you those theoretical definitions which I'm not interested in, I'm trying to ensure that you fundamentally understand the meaning of equity research rather than just rectifying the theoretical definition which will come on the slide after a couple of minutes. But before I'm not interested in that. So have you understood fundamentally what is equity research? कैसे किया जाता है वो सब अब हम जाएंगे final details में, but overall in terms of what broadly equity research means is that what I'm trying to ensure कि we have close हो जाए.
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
understood.
Okay.
actually,
So go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I wanted to know that how we can shortlist the, like if we're talking about equity shares, and how we can shortlist the companies where to invest,
हाँ
because
वो
there is a
करा हूँ मैंने,
vast.
वो कर रहा हूँ. सो
Okay.
आपने कैसे शॉर्टलिस्ट किया मोबाइल फोन में भी तो there might be 500 handsets available in the market. Farul, how would you shortlist? Because when you start reviewing, you will do
Mhm.
review or check for 5 or 10, correct? You will not do this for entire 500. So how would you shortlist for yourself?
Because there we know the top five companies, like which we want to prefer in case of
I
mobile
didn't
phone.
understand. I didn't understand. So let's say you want to buy a mobile phone yourself. So what you would do? You will select top 5 companies. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, the brand also matters. Like if the person is using iPhone, we'll only go for iPhone only. will not do any further research.
आप ऐसे मोबाइल फोन खरीदते हो?
No, I'm not talking about myself. Like in
अपना
mobile
बताओ,
phone and
अपना
equity shares.
पारुल, पारुल आप
Hmm.
अपना बताओ, दूसरों का जेनरिक स्टेटमेंट मुझे मत दो. if if you have identified as suppose you have realized कि मुझे मोबाइल फोन की जरूरत है, या आपका पुराना मोबाइल फोन जो आप अभी यूज कर रहे हो वो लेट्स that's not working, or because of whatever reason you want to change, and you decided today now I'm going to buy a new handset, what approach you will follow? Tell me that. And there are 500 or more than 500 handsets available in the Indian markets. How would you decide कि मुझे किसके ऊपर इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर करनी है? And that is the answer to your question.
Okay, let's move ahead then. Let's see. ठीक है.
अरे मूव अहेड आप बताओ ना कैसे शॉर्टलिस्ट कर रहे हो? आई एम ट्राइंग टू स्किप दैट क्वेश्चन.
No, I want to first let us see what is the procedure for which we are going to study in this.
हाँ ठीक है पारुल, बट आप कैसे शॉर्टलिस्ट करोगे मोबाइल फोन अपने लिए, वो तो बताओ.
In the same way I told, like I will search online first of all. I'll see
Hmm.
the available options, the best
500
available
500
options.
500 handsets are available now.
No,
No means
means I'll put in the scenario like the best available option, the best
how to define best?
my criteria, which are fulfilling my criteria.
Give me a few criteria.
Like I told, the battery backup, the camera quality,
Hmm.
megapixel,
Hmm.
and yeah, the storage space,
Hmm.
and
So they
also
would.
the
So what you're trying to explain me, you will build some criteria, correct? And basis
yeah,
that criteria, you will filter out on the universe. So what will happen out of 500 handsets? Basis the criteria,
mhm.
you might left with 10 or 15 handsets. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Exactly, is that what's being done? And let's assume
Okay.
out of 10, 15, out of 500 handsets, you reach to 10 or 15 number, then probably one of the criteria that you might put in is the budget as well. So that's my budget, or this is the amount that I'm willing to spend for this. And out of those 10, 15 handsets, you might reach to, let's assume, another 6, 7 handsets. And this is where you start doing the further drill down, start comparing the features each of these, start seeking feedback, start doing more detailed analysis for 5, 6, 7 shortlisted handsets. This is exactly what we do. So basis the client, we define certain criterias. I will take you through those criterias. Those criterias has been created, and on universe you put those criterias, filter out, and out of those universe you get a selected a lesser number of stocks, and then you start doing more detailed analysis on those selected or those a lower number of stocks, and then finally you shortlist what you want to invest or what you want to recommend to the client. Probably is that clear in terms of वो criteria क्या होते हैं वो मैं भी आपको बताऊंगा.
Mhm.
Give me some
Yeah.
time. But in the approach, it's pretty simple. Let me give another example to you guys. You want to buy a car for yourself, or you want to buy. Let's those people who have done this in the past would be able to understand this. Those people who have not done this, उनके लिए शायद practically difficult होगा ये understand करना. Those who have, इसलिए मैं ज़्यादा example देने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. Those who have purchased a mobile phone for yourself, those who have purchased let's assume property for yourself, those who have purchased a car for yourself or a bike for yourself, exactly what we do when it comes to equity markets. Because अगर मुझे कार खरीदना है, there are hundred of cars available in the market. ठीक है, मेरा बजट, मेरे को किस सेगमेंट में खरीदना है, क्या फीचर्स चाहिए मेरे लिए, क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है, करके शॉर्टलिस्ट करके उसमें एक फिल्टर लगा के कुछ कार्स आ जाते हैं, कुछ ब्रांड्स आ जाते हैं, कुछ मॉडल्स आ जाते हैं. एंड देन आप उस इंडिविजुअल को थोड़ा डिटेल स्टडी करते हो. यू गो फॉर टेस्ट ड्राइव, गो एंड लुक एट द कार, you look at the features, you look at the technology, you look at the engine specification more detail, and then that's where you finally start shortlisting and narrow down your search and start moving from 5 6 to 2 3, and then finally moving to one car, and that's where you go and do the deal. That's exactly happens in the equity space as well. Same goes to the property, correct? Any questions out? And anybody wants to add anything to this? Which पूछना before I move further? Because what I want you to understand what is equity research in a simple meaning rather than trying to put theoretical jargons to this and try and make this difficult for you. इसलिए मैंने बहुत generic common man example दिए so that you understand, and if you are being uh, if you're being asked the same question, you're able to explain this in a much easier way and through common examples rather than using the technical jargon. So कुछ slides के बाद दिखेंगे आप. Any questions यहाँ तक? ठीक है. So in case no, uh, so in case explain what is equity research, and this is the theoretical definition. Look at this as well. So equity research primarily involves analysis of the company financials. You're analyzing company financials. You're doing some ratio analysis. You're trying to forecast the financials. You're preparing financial model of the company. You're doing scenario analysis. And finally, why are you doing this? You're doing this to decide or to recommend to the client that client should buy the stock, client should sell the stock, or client should avoid the stock. Avoid nahi likha hai slightly, but this is what the three outcomes. What is it? These are the three outcomes of each equity research. And finally, if you're doing more for your client on behalf of your client, then you put this entire analysis in a report, and you send this report to the client. And these are called as equity research reports. And the team or the individuals in the organization who are paid for doing this research are called as equity research analysts. Any questions on this?
Yes, I have one question. You are saying that this is a theoretical elaboration of what is equity research. Can you please map it buying a car?
That's what it did, correct? So let's take an example of this. So if I have to, I'm not sure whether Deepak you missed the earlier. Exactly, this is what I discussed. Did you miss my?
Actually, I'm not able to map. I was there. I'm not
Okay.
able to map. That's why I'm asking this question.
Okay, so let's take this. So equity research, I want to buy a car. Okay, how would I go decide and buy the car? So would I look at my specification in terms of what is my requirement, what is my budget? Because the car can start from 2.5 lakhs and might go up to, let's assume, 1.5 CR as well. I'm looking at the Indian markets, correct? So that's the range that we're looking at. Similarly, when a client comes to us and say, "Can you do research for me? I want to invest." The first question is, what is the amount that you have to invest? Because if the client has 50,000 rupees to invest, my research methodology would be far different vis-a-vis an FPI client who says, "I have $10 million to invest." So that's the first piece that comes in terms of budget. आपका budget क्या है? आप कितना पैसा मुझे देने के लिए ready हो research कितना? So there are two things when you're showing the budget. One, budget means how much money that you have in your pocket or you're willing to invest, and second is how much fees you are willing to pay me for my consultancy and my research. Because if you're willing to pay me more fees, then of course I will do a much more detailed analysis for you. If you're not willing to give me anything, I will do a research which is more of a free research, which will be a very simple and basic. So that's where the budget comes in. Deepak, any doubt on this budget mapping?
No. My question will come when the whole thing will be mapped out.
ठीक है. So मैं एक point करके समझा रहा हूँ. So then please feel free to chip in any point where you have disconnect or any questions. So that's where we start with the budgeting piece, and I will basis this in a car purchasing of a car scenario. I will shortlist. Okay, this is my budget. This is my requirement. Now let's map requirement as well. So in a car space, the requirement would be, okay, this is my budget. Now then I will say, okay, what are my requirements? Am I looking at sedan? I'm looking at SUV. I'm looking at small car. I'm looking at diesel car. I'm looking at petrol, CNG, or depending, I need a fast car, and these specific, I need a luxurious car. I'm okay with a decent car. Am I buying the car for my social status? These are the additional piece which will come out, which I will consider apart from the budget. Exactly same thing I do for when a client comes to me. So I start understanding the client risk profile. ठीक है, so which means ठीक है आपके पास पैसा है, but what's your risk appetite, आप कितने टाइम के लिए पैसा इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए रेडी, because if somebody who's willing to invest for 6 months, let's assume I have get two clients, one $10 million, another same client, another client B also has a $10 million, both clients have $10 million, but the first client A says I'm willing to invest for 6 months, and the second client says I'm willing to invest for 5 years. So in spite of the fact that both has the same budget, but the 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 time for which they are willing to invest is far different. So the risk appetite will come into picture. The nature of the client will come into picture, because suppose
No,
a
no.
client A.
I want to interrupt in this point. You are means elaborating on from clientele perspective. I want to means have it from my side. If I'm going to see on and how I'm going to, because I'm going to buy a car, I'm not going to buy a car for somebody.
To client hata do. So let's assume if I'm buying the car, I will do my analysis in terms of what's my need, my budget, what's my requirement, am I buying the car for what purpose. Okay. And similarly, if I'm buying the equity stock, I will try and analyze what's the purpose, how much money I have, for what period I want to park that fund, whether I'm willing to park the funds $10 million for 6 months. Am I willing to park this $10 million for 5 years? What's my risk appetite? Am I willing to take risk into two volatile stocks? I don't want to take too many risks, because I wanted to go for a relatively stable stocks. So that's my risk appetite that I will check. The third thing that I will check is my ability. When I say ability, this has two parts that we look at. Is one is an ability from a law perspective. So let's assume I'm an Indian resident. Okay. So because I'm an Indian resident, there would be certain stocks which would be outside my reach. Outside my reach, because the regulation doesn't allow me to go and invest into those markets. Similarly, let's assume I am an international FPI investor. Now, if I'm an international FPI investor, I can invest into much more wider spectrum of the stocks or economies for that matter. Okay, so I can invest into Indian markets, I can invest into Singapore markets, I can invest to other countries as well. So this is exactly what I'm trying to map this with when I want to buy a car, because which cars are under my range, into my reach. Let's assume if I'm somebody who's willing to even go ahead and I'm willing to pay an import duty, so then mean the cars which are not in the Indian markets, but the car which is selling outside the Indian markets, but I'm willing to pay. I have budget and I have appetite and I have those contacts, or I have those ability to do those things as well, which would require the importing of the car from another country to Indian market for me to drive that car. I can do that also, and which means my shortlisting of the car will have much more different methodology. Same applies for equity. If I'm somebody who's like an Indian retail investor, my capacity or the universe that I have to look at is different vis-a-vis if I'm an FPI investor, vis-a-vis I'm an hedge fund. Okay, so this exactly works in the same way, whether I'm doing for myself, whether I'm doing the client. What I'm trying to explain to you earlier, in an equity research space, generally they are professional analysts who do this on behalf of the client, but just to ensure कि आपको मैं same ही analogy पे रख रहा हूँ. So now what I've done, I'm trying to do for myself, but in real markets I don't do for myself, because generally this is done for the clients. But I understood your point, case let's just keep the same, because in a car space example, we are doing this for myself. So यहाँ तक दीपक कुछ doubt है?
No.
Okay, so now basis this, I've shortlisted certain cars. Basis this example, I've shortlisted certain stocks. Now these stocks is not where I will invest, but these are some filtered stocks and filtered cars. Now let's go for the car. So in car example, let's say I'm shortlisted 5 cars. Now for each of these 5 cars, I will start looking at detailed feedback. मार्केट में उनका फीडबैक क्या आ रहा है, रिव्यूज क्या आ रहे हैं, कौन से ब्रांड की कार्स हैं ये, उनके फीडबैक क्या है मार्केट में, रीसेल वैल्यू क्या है, उनकी इंजन स्पेसिफिकेशन क्या है, फ्यूल एफिशिएंसीज क्या, अगर मैं उन सब इन चीजों में इंटरेस्टेड हूँ, ठीक है, या मुझे कोई स्पेसिफिकेशन चाहिए, लेट्स से आई एम समबडी हु वांट्स टू हैव अ वेरी वेरी हाई टेक्निकल इंटीरियर सेटअप्स, तो मैं इंटीरियर को देख एंड देन आई विल स्टार्ट लुकिंग एट ईच ऑफ दीज ऑफ दोज शॉर्टलिस्टेड 5 कार्स. मेरा कार को खरीदने का पर्पस क्या है, लेट्स से आई एम समबडी who's buying the car, and I'm somebody who will buy the car and will sell in 1 year, because I'm somebody who buys and sell. Then I will also start looking at the resale value of the car. कि यार मैंने को पता है कि मैं ज्यादा लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए इस कार को नहीं रखने वाला हूँ, and I will exit from this car. Investment कह लो, expenditure कह लो, again depends how to look at it, but I don't want to get into that complication because we are not doing the wealth management here. But so if I'm somebody who knows, yeah, on an average, generally when I buy the car, I exit in 1.5 years. Then I will look at the resale value of the car. Vis-a-vis, I'm somebody who wants to buy the car, stays with the car, and use that car unless car creates a problem for me for 5, 6, 7 years. So so then I will not be too much of interested in the resale value. I will be more interested in the durability of the car. कि कार अगले 5-6 साल तक मुझे परेशान तो नहीं करेगी, मेरे को एक्सपेंडिचर तो नहीं करेगी. And same applies to the equity market as well. Let's come to the equity market example. अगर मैंने 5-6 स्टॉक्स को चूज कर लिए हैं, then what's my intent? If my intent is कि मैं को अगले 6-7 महीने में एग्जिट करना है, then I will start calculating the potential or the performance of the company or the returns of, जो मैं आपको सिखाऊंगा कैसे करते हैं, ठीक है. I will start forecasting. I will start doing those analysis more from a shorter term perspective कि यार अगले 6 महीने में, 7 महीने में, या अगले 6 से 1 साल में कंपनी का कैसा पोटेंशियल आएगा. I will not be too much of interested in trying to evaluate or trying to forecast what's going to happen with the company with the next year, because तब तक मैं रुकने नहीं वाला. Vis-a-vis somebody who's looking from an FDI investment perspective, who this would be those category of investors. या सपोज मैं खुद ही, बिकॉज यू वांट, मैं खुद के लिए एक्सप्लेन करूँ. सो लेट्स आई एम समबडी हु इज ट्राइंग टू इन्वेस्ट इन एफडीआई स्पेस, तो मैं कंपनी का 3, 4, 5 साल का प्रोजेक्शन देखने की कोशिश करूंगा, बिकॉज आई एम समबडी हु इज लुकिंग एट लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट. एंड what are the tools available to do this is these tools. I will look at the company financially. सिखाना बाकी है मुझे कि हम ये कैसे करते हैं, बट जस्ट टू गिव एन एग्जांपल, जैसे मैंने कार वाला एग्जांपल बताया, मैं फ्यूल एफिशिएंसी देखूंगा, मैं कार के इंटीरियर्स देखूंगा. दीज आर टेक्निक्स और टूल्स. मैं टेस्ट ड्राइव पे जाऊंगा, ठीक है, मैं कार की स्पीड देखूंगा. मैं कार को जब टेस्ट ड्राइव करूंगा तो मैं उसके इंजन से मुझे पता लगता है कि कितना कंफर्ट मुझे मिल रहा है, कितना स्मूथ कार चल रही है. मैं कार में बैठ के देखूंगा, मुझे अगर लग्जरी मेरे लिए इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर है तो. And similarly, when I'm doing this for the equity stock, these are my tools. I'll start analyzing the financials of the company. I will do ratio analysis for the company. मैं कंपनी की फोरकास्टिंग करूंगा, मैं कंपनी का फाइनेंशियल मॉडल बनाऊंगा, मैं सेंसिटिविटी और सिनेरियो एनालिसिस करूंगा. ये कैसे करते हैं ये मैंने अभी नहीं सिखाया स्लाइड में, सिखाऊंगा अभी. बट दिस इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट आई विल डू इफ आई हैव टू डिसाइड कि मुझे कौन से इक्विटी स्टॉक खरीदना है. एंड सेम with the car space. Now, once I buy the car or once I shortlist the stock, okay, basis both, the I will start using the car, and let's assume the car does not perform in my expectation, in line of my expectation that I created when I decided to buy that car. Okay, so then what I do, I have two choices. One, I still stay with the car. सपोज जब मैंने कार खरीदा तो मेरे एनालिसिस या मेरी रिसर्च से मुझे ऐसा पता लगा कि यार कार जो है लेट्स से 20 किलोमीटर पर आवर की फ्यूल एफिशिएंसी देखिए, हाइपोथेटिकल एग्जांपल, ठीक है. बट व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड यूजिंग द कार, आई रियलाइज कि कार 5 किलोमीटर पर आवर से फ्यूल एफिशिएंसी दे ही नहीं रही है, ज्यादा दे ही नहीं रही है. सो it's not giving me fuel efficiency beyond 6.5 kilometers per kilometer के हिसाब से. Now I have two choices. One, I stay invested in this car. I go to a mechanic, I go to the car, back to the manufacturer and say इसको repair करो, this and stuff like this. Or I exit from that investment and realize that I've done a mistake and exit from this. Exactly same happens in equity. Now this is a little more than equity research, because research मेरा वहाँ खत्म होगा जहाँ पे मैंने stock खरीद लिया. But as I trying to explain to you, for generally a bigger set of clients, और अगर मेरे पास genuinely sophistication है ये सब करने का, तो मैं खरीदने तक नहीं रुकता, मैं उसको आगे लेके जाता हूँ. So if I purchase a particular equity stock, I would have set some expectation कि ऐसा perform करेगा, and then उस परफॉर्मेंस के बेसिस पे मैं डिसाइड करता हूँ कि मुझे स्टॉक को आगे रखना है कि एग्जिट करना है. सो लेट्स अज्यूम मैंने एक्सपेक्ट किया कि कंपनी लेट्स 12-13% से ऊपर जाएगी, स्टॉक प्राइस विल गो 10-15% रिटर्न देगा, बट स्टॉक डजंट गो अप, स्टार्ट्स मूविंग डाउन. नाउ अगेन माय रिस्क एपेटाइट कम्स इनटू पिक्चर. डू आई हैव अ स्ट्रांग बिलीफ ऑन द स्टॉक कि ठीक है ये टेम्परेरी है, कोविड आ रहा है, ये पेंडेमिक आ रहा है, ठीक है रुके रहो इसमें, अगले 6-8 महीने में 1 साल में जब ये सिनेरियो ठीक हो जाएगा, इट विल बाउंस बैक. इफ आई हैव दैट एपेटाइट, ऑफ कोर्स आई विल स्टे इन्वेस्टेड. If I'm somebody who doesn't have the ability to understand this market, who reacts very easily, who doesn't have those patience, probably I will exit the way I have exited from the car investment. So this is exactly what happens. The only piece that I have not explained, ये tools को use कैसे करते हैं. For example, मैंने बोला ratio analysis कैसे करते हैं, yet to be explained. Forecasting कैसे करते हैं, yet to be explained. Modeling कैसे करते हैं, yet to be explained. Scenario analysis कैसे करते हैं, sensitivity analysis कैसे करते हैं, yet to be explained. So बट व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन, जो आपने एग्जांपल पूछा कि मैपिंग करके देख सकते हैं, वो मैंने एक्सप्लेन किया. तो इसमें कुछ पूछना है या क्वेरी है तो बताइए.
No. Equity research means a person who is doing it. These financials and all information are readily available. It has to be bought because for if an outside investor means like me, I'm seeing the market. I'll not be able to source these informations, the company's financial and all that.
सेम अप्लाइज टू कार एग्जांपल. करेक्ट, जब आपको कार खरीदनी है तो क्या सारी इंफॉर्मेशन दीपक आपको रेडिली अवेलेबल होती है क्या? द रीजन आई एम सीकिंग टू द कार एग्जांपल बिकॉज गाइस आप लोगों ने किया होगा, ये कार नहीं कोई भी ले लो आप, कोई भी प्रोडक्ट आपने का प्रॉपर्टी खरीदी है, कोई भी ऐसी चीज विच इज अ लिटिल वैल्यूएबल इन्वेस्टमेंट फॉर यू, ठीक है. और जैसे मैंने मोबाइल फोन के एग्जांपल है, बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ यू हैव एक्सपीरियंस दैट. बट अगर हम कार के एग्जांपल पे रहते हैं, आप मुझे बताओ, अगर आपने एक कार या 2-3 कार से शॉर्ट लिस्ट करी है, आपको क्या उस कार की सब इंफॉर्मेशन इजीली रेडीली, उसके जो जो ब्रोशर होता है जो कार कार मैन्युफैक्चरर देता है आपको, जब व्हेन यू विजिट द शोरूम, तो आपने सब लिख के देता है अच्छे से, वो स्पेशली द नेगेटिव पॉइंट्स और रिस्क इश्यूज वो लिख के देता है क्या उसके अंदर सब कुछ?
नहीं लिखेगा. Why he will
नहीं
do
लिखेगा.
that?
क्या वो सब इजीली कंपनी की वेबसाइट पे अवेलेबल होती है?
नहीं.
तो आप कहाँ से निकालते हो? दीपक,
Yes, means
कहाँ से निकालते हो?
we don't means either from the opinion of means people or else because we don't get that information.
You try your best to get that information to the extent
But
what you get.
yes, but if you don't get, then I have no such means sort of experience on that part. You are not audible.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
There's some network issue at sir's end, yeah.
Okay, okay, fine.
Hello, am I audible now? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, uh, yeah, sorry. Uh, Deepak, what we're discussing, you asked something I was explaining before I my internet went off. Can you help me to recollect the question जो आप पूछा था आपने?
No, no. That question was on the availability of information.
Ha, correct. Availability of information. So I was telling you that when you want to buy the car, you try your best to get that information. Now, and you mentioned that you might not get some information. So now, does that stop you from buying the car, or you make your best effort and try and get whatever information you get, and basis that you take your call and move, or if you believe you have not got some information, you don't buy the car. How do you go about it?
trying to get as much as information.
हाँ, उसके बाद आपको जो इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलनी चाहिए थी मिल गई ना, उसके बाद आप क्या करते? डू यू यू बिकॉज आपको कभी भी 100% इन्फॉर्मेशन तो मिलेगी नहीं, करेक्ट?
Exactly.
हाँ, so do you go ahead and buy, or you don't buy unless you get 100% information?
Practically, it will not happen that you will get the 100% information. Then whatever information to the best possible, you will go for that, and you will take your decision to buy that car. Or
Correct. So which means there's an element of the risk involved, because the information that you've not got may or may not be something which is important to you. Correct. So there's an element
exactly.
of risk involved. That's exactly
Yes.
happens in equity market, and that's why we say it's a risky business. Because listen, you and so suppose you and Parul wants to invest. Both have, let's say, 1 lakh rupees to invest. Do you agree there's a possibility that you, as a research analyst, if you're doing for yourself and Parul is doing for herself, you might get less information vis-a-vis what Parul has got? Is it possible?
Can you please repeat it? Sorry.
So let's assume you and Parul both looking to invest into an Indian equity market, 1 lakh rupees for next 3 years. So in terms of the investment size and the investment tenure, both are same for you and Parul. And now you and Parul are doing research for yourself. So is it possible that you get the information that you had got is less than what Parul has got, or vice versa? Is it possible?
It should not be.
It will be. It will be, because आप दोनों का जो बेस इंफॉर्मेशन है वो एक एनुअल रिपोर्ट कंपनी का हो गया, जो 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 उसके बाद जो पब्लिक डोमेन, उसके बाद हो सकता है कि पारुल का कोई फ्रेंड हो या पारुल का कोई
No, no,
रिलेटिव।
that all depends. No, theoretically, I'm saying it is not possible. Insider information, if you have
नहीं,
that,
इंसाइडर की बात नहीं कर रहा, अरे इंसाइडर की छोड़ दो, इंसाइडर की बात ही नहीं कर रहा। इट्स नॉट अबाउट इंसाइडर इंफॉर्मेशन। आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू टेल यू दैट यू हैव लुक एट द एनुअल रिपोर्ट ऑफ द कंपनी, ठीक है? एंड उसके बाद आपने गूगल पे सर्च किया, 1 घंटा, और आपने फर्स्ट 10 लिंक खोल के देखे। पारुल ने गूगल पे 30 दिन सर्च किया और 500 लिंक खोल डाले। So now you tell me, the information that Parul will get about the same stock is this equivalent to what you will get, or it would be different?
means it will be different because it all depends on the curiosity level what you have.
Exactly. Which means, but you will never realize this, correct? Because Parul is not speaking to you and you are not speaking to Parul. So you will never realize that information that you've got is less or more than what other investors are getting, correct? You go with your gut feeling and experience and your ability to search. Let's assume if you've done a search for 1 day and you believe कि हाँ मुझे ये search से मैं comfortable हूँ और आपके risk appetite में आ गया है वो, you will go and invest and take that risk, take that element of the risk involved into that. That's why it is called as an equity, risky equity investment market, because the information that you get, sometimes information might be less or more than what somebody else is getting, and hence your decision might prove to be wrong in future as well, because हो सकता है कि वो जो पारुल ने 30 days लगाया और आपने 1 day लगाया, तो उस एक्स्ट्रा 29 days में पारुल के एक्सेस में हाथ में कुछ ऐसी इन्फॉर्मेशन, अगेन पब्लिक डोमेन, नो इनसाइडर इन्फॉर्मेशन, ऐसी कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन या ऐसा कोई आर्टिकल आ गया जो आपके पास आपकी सर्च में आया ही नहीं था, एंड हेंस शी इज एबल टू टेक मच मोर इन्फॉर्म्ड डिसीजन जो शायद आपसे मिस हो गया।
Correct. I
इसीलिए
mean, high degree of risk is there basically.
इसीलिए जो मैंने आपको बोला, ये एनालिसिस आप जनरली खुद नहीं करते हो। यू प्रेफर फॉर समबडी प्रोफेशनल एक्सपर्ट जिसका फुल टाइम जॉब ये है, बिकॉज अगर आप खुद अपने लिए करते हो तो आपके पास, बिकॉज यू डूइंग योर जॉब और यू स्टडिंग और व्हाटएवर, you might not have either a time or you might not have a full expertise to do your first self, and you believe should I put my money into risk of going ahead and investing basis limited information or incomplete information. That's why you look up to the financial experts, which is called as equity research analysts or research houses, for look up to them to come out and give you the detailed information in form of research report, because those houses, let's say अगर आप अपने लिए कर रहे हो तो आप गूगल पे थ्रू कर रहे हो, they will have an access to much more databases like Bloomberg है, Reuters and some of the other databases जिसमें again public information ही होती है, but the public information is available in a much more filtered format, जो शायद अगर आप और मैं एक इंडिविजुअल कैपेसिटी में करेंगे विदाउट मी हैविंग एक्सेस टू दोज डेटाबेसेस, तो शायद गूगल से इतना आसान नहीं होगा करना. एंड दैट्स व्हाई those research analysts gets paid for it. Those companies get charged for the clients because they are able to do much more sophisticated analysis जो शायद एक इंडिविजुअल अपने लिए नहीं आसानी से कर सकता. So will you have an access to all information? The answer is no. Would you be able to figure out is this less or more than others? The answer is no, and hence there's an element of risk involved. And that's why for certain people we clearly tell them that this is not a market for your risk appetite. Stay away from this, because some of the people are they can't go ahead and invest unless they believe, unless they have 100% information in their hand, and that's where it's not a good market for those people. Let me give an example to this. So when you go to, let's say, SBI and you open a 50,000 FD rupees, you know pretty much the information that you need for an investment in FD and SBI is कि कौन किसके पैसे, मैं किसको FD करा रहा हूँ, मैं SBI को FD करा रहा हूँ. SBI is a government backed और PSU बैंक, वो आपको पता लग जाता है. कितना मुझे एफडी में रिटर्न मिलेगा वो आपको पता लग जाता है. कब मिलेगा आपका एफडी, मेच्योर कब होगी आपको वो पता लग जाता है. ऑनलाइन मेच्योर होगी, फिजिकल मेच्योर होगी, वो आपको पता लग जाता है. और somebody who is very low risk appetite, उसको लगता है हाँ सारे इन्फॉर्मेशन तो मुझे मिल गई, मैं इसमें इन्वेस्ट कर देता हूँ. अब उसी बंदे को जिसका रिस्क एपेटाइट लो है, मैं उसको बोलूँ इक्विटी मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट कर दो, कहेगा ठीक है बताओ मुझे इन्फॉर्मेशन. वो मुझसे पूछेगा कि कितने साल के लिए इन्वेस्ट करना है. ठीक है, एंड इफ आई टेल कि पॉसिबिलिटी, वो देखा जाएगा जब मार्केट किस तरीके से बिहेव करेगी, बिकॉज इट्स प्रैक्टिकली इम्पॉसिबल फॉर मी टू गिव यू एग्जैक्ट डेट कि इस दिन को एग्जिट कर देना, अभी नहीं दे सकते. बट आई कैन गिव यू रेंज कि हाँ दिस स्टॉक इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू मूव अपवर्ड इन नेक्स्ट 6 to 8 month की रेंज में. ठीक है, सो एनी टाइम बिटवीन 6 to 8 months would be a good exit time. Now, if he believes that this is good information, of course he would have a risk appetite to invest. Now, if he says no, मुझे exact date बताओ, then that information will not be available in an equity market space, and that's why these people generally will stay away or are required or probably advised to stay away from the equity markets. Similarly, कितना रिटर्न मिलेगा, मैं एफडी में आपको प्रॉमिस कर रहा हूँ कि 8% रिटर्न मिलेगा और लेट्स 6.5 मिलेगा इन करंट एनवायरनमेंट, बट इक्विटी मार्केट में शायद वो प्रॉमिस नहीं करता. हाँ, व्हाट आई विल बी एबल टू टेल यू एक रेंज में, इस रेंज के आसपास आपको एग्जैक्टली वो कितना होगा, इट इज नॉट, एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट बिकम्स अ रिस्की इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. हाँ जी, कुछ क्वेश्चन, डज इट आंसर योर क्वेश्चन?
Yes.
Anybody else, any other question guys on this? ये काफी important part है इस पूरी जर्नी का, because now let me put a context to this. So what will happen going forward or into this journey is ये जो individual pieces है, for example analyzing company financials. So let me get a different color. So for example analyzing company financials, ratio analysis, forecasting, modeling, scenario analysis, sensitivity analysis, ये सब किया जाता है एंड इसके बेसिस पे डिसाइड किया जाता है. और इसमें एक वैल्यूएशन पीस भी है जो यहाँ लिखा नहीं है, जो यू कैन से मॉडलिंग में क्लब हो गया. ठीक है, सो वैल्यूएशन पीस इज वेल, ये सब करा जाता है एंड ये इंडिविजुअल टेक्निक्स और इंडिविजुअल कॉन्सेप्ट्स को सब कर करके देन यू ब्रिंग ऑल दिस टुगेदर, एंड दैट्स व्हाट बिकम्स इक्विटी रिसर्च रिपोर्ट. अब इस जर्नी में आपको यही सिखाया जाएगा. आपको अलग अलग सेशंस होंगे आपके. ठीक है, so you will have one session on how to analyze the financials of the company through ratio analysis. फिर आपके सेशंस होंगे आप फोरकास्टिंग कैसे करते हैं, आपके सेशंस होंगे आप मॉडलिंग कैसे करते हैं, आपके सेशंस होंगे आप वैल्यूएशन कैसे करते हैं, आपके सेशंस होंगे सिनेरियोज कैसे क्रिएट करते हैं, सेंसिटिविटी कैसे रन करते हैं, उस मॉडलिंग का एनालिसिस. फिर वो मॉडल आप बनाएंगे क्लास में. आई डोंट नो वेदर वी डिस्कस दिस इन लास्ट क्लास और नॉट कि you will have few sessions with me in terms of where I will create a live model. We will do live forecasting. We'll take one case or transaction or company and we'll do live forecasting and modeling for that. तो क्या होगा प्रोग्राम के एंड में ये इंडिविजुअल सेशंस करते 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 आप पूरा इक्विटी रिसर्च रिपोर्ट की बहुत डिटेल में पहुंच जाएंगे. सो डोंट गाइस, व्हाट आई वांट टू एक्सप्लेन कि सेशंस ऐसे नहीं होंगे इक्विटी रिसर्च का सेशन हो रहा है, ऐसे नहीं सेशन होगा. सेशन होगा रेशियो एनालिसिस, सेशन होगा फोरकास्टिंग, सेशन होगा मॉडलिंग, सेशन होगा वैल्यूएशन. ऐसे सेशन होंगे. ठीक है, योर सेशंस के नाम टॉपिक्स ऐसे आपको ईमेल्स में आएंगे. बट ये टेक्निकली सब इक्विटी रिसर्च का ही पार्ट है. तो ये करते 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 आप एंड में जब देखोगे आपके हाथ में जो कंप्लीट आएगा वो एक पूरा रिसर्च एनालिसिस ही होगा. द रीजन आई एम ट्राइंग टू मेक दिस वेरी क्लियर बिकॉज इट शुड नॉट हैपन कि आप वेट करें कि इक्विटी रिसर्च का सेशन आएगा. ठीक है, इक्विटी रिसर्च का सेशन आखिरी में आएगा वेयर आई विल जस्ट रैप दिस अप एवरीथिंग इन वन टुगेदर कि सबको कंबाइन कैसे किया जाता है. बट उससे पहले भी जो सेशंस हो रहे होंगे जब आपको ये एनालिसिस सिखाया जाएगा या रेशियो सिखाया जाएगा, फोरकास्टिंग सिखाया जाएगा, मॉडलिंग सिखाया जाएगा एंड वैल्यूएशन सिखाया जाएगा, स्ट्रैटेजी भी सिखाया जाता है. ठीक है, वो भी हम करेंगे लेवल 2 में बिकॉज सम ऑफ द बिग वेरी वेरी सोफिस्टिकेटेड क्लाइंट्स विल डू द स्ट्रैटेजी एनालिसिस एज वेल. ठीक है, तो ये सब जो पीसेस आप करोगे ये सब इक्विटी रिसर्च के टूल्स एंड टेक्निक्स ही हैं जो इंडिविजुअल सेशन में आप बहुत ज्यादा डेप्थ में करोगे. यहाँ तक कोई डाउट है, कुछ क्वेरी? आई जस्ट वांट टू इंश्योर कि यू एंड मी आर ऑन द सेम लाइन बिकॉज व्हेन वी स्टार्ट डूइंग दीस सेशंस it should be very clear these are nothing but we are getting into drill down of the equity research only. Guys, any questions on this? Any suggestions on this? Anything that you want to add to this? Any disconnect, please? Okay. So now this is similar what Deepak ji पूछा था कि information. So let's assume if I'm a part of a big research house, then I also get an opportunity to speak to the management. ये सबको नहीं मिलता है. ठीक है. So if I send an appointment request to the CFO or to the organization, and I'm carrying a big brand. Okay, so I sometimes get accepted the request to meet to the management get accepted, and I go to the management and speak to the and what's their plan, what are they trying to do, what's the strategy and stuff like this. This helps me to get more information about it. This is not an insider information, so the management will not tell you what's insider, but they will tell you information which is again available in the public domain. But when you hear it directly from the horse's mouth, you're able to understand and analyze in a much better way than just written on a piece of paper. You speak to the customers, suppliers. So this helps you in understanding. So before I get into this, so just let me try and explain the structure of the research houses. So हाँ, तो रियल वर्ल्ड में क्या होता है? 3 पार्टीज इन्वॉल्व होती है. लेट्स ये क्लाइंट है, ये जो मैंने सर्कल किया है इसको क्लाइंट मान के चलते हैं, मैं सी लिख रहा हूँ यहाँ पर, ठीक है, अभी के लिए। तो अभी 3 पार्टीज इन्वॉल्व, सो 1 2 and 3. हेलो guys, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, I thought yeah again my had an internet issue. So now this is research analyst, point number 1. This is salesperson and this is client. Now what happens in the real world, how these teams are structured is this research analyst does the research, prepares the research report and gives that input to the sales guy, and the salesperson try and pitch this idea to the client. And if, let's assume, if the client likes the idea, likes the research, then the client goes and action bases that research or bases that recommendation. ये clear है, 3 parties, 1 2 3. Generally research analysts generally do not directly interact with the client. They do not, generally do not. Generally through sales person they interact, because the rule is different. That this person is not required to step out of the office. Generally research analysis is required to do this analysis, and this person is sales guy is responsible for managing the client relationship, to go out to the field and get the business to the company. But are we clear with this 1 2 3? Because you would doubt questions. Okay. ये point clear है? The research analyst require the role of the research analyst is to pass the ideas and insight to the sales team for mass distribution, for giving this input to the companies. Our research analyst generally allocated certain sectors or certain companies. So you need to work on those sectors and companies. You need to have a better understanding of your company other than anyone else. Okay, that's what is expected, because if you don't know some information about the company that's being allocated to you, then technically your research and your recommendation to the client will not be correct. So hence you're expected, if you're being assigned a particular company, you're expected to know everything about that company. And at the end, you are required to provide a written report or written commentary, which is called as research report. And this will have the industry opinion or your opinion and stuff like that.
This point, ideas and insights are passed on to sales for mass distribution and all. Is it an analyst will pass the ideas to sales, and after that they will start seeking the clients, or vice versa also? The client has come to them and to sales, and after that they ask analysts to do the research and all that.
Generally, that happens more in a M&A space, where let's say the client itself is interested in buying out a particular company, and then client comes and say, can you do research on this company? But in terms of the segments like hedge funds, mutual funds, FPI investors, they generally don't come to you saying that search on this. You go to them and say, we've done an analysis and this is where you should invest. So it can happen both ways, but it's just depending upon the different category of investor, different approaches being followed. So if Tata Motors want to acquire, let's assume Tata Motors want to acquire, let's assume Maruti, Tata Motors will come and say, can you do research for me on Maruti? But in a hedge fund, who is not bothered whether you invest in stock A or stock B, as long as that gives a good return. So hedge fund will not come to me and say, do a research on stock A. Hedge fund will tell me, give me the returns which falls into risk, into this appetite of risk and return, and then I will do the analysis and say, okay, इस category में ये good investment options हैं.
So what I've understood is that apart from certain asset class, the analyst should starting the thing for sales to initiate.
Initiate what?
You told that analyst will analyze and put the ideas to sale, and after that, sales people will go to this clientele and all. Apart from these asset class, what you have mentioned, hedge funds and M&A and all that.
No, so initiate what? Initiate, you're referring to initiation of the interaction or relationship,
No,
or
no.
you're referring to
This
initiation of the idea?
idea and insights are passed on to sales for mass distribution. I'm on this
So the
point only.
research team tells the salesperson that these are the good stock, these are bad stocks. Then sales, basis that research, goes to their client and say that basis our analysis, these are good stocks to invest. And then client will start understanding those analysis if he has a capacity to do those. And then he will say, okay, ye acha hai, ye acha nahi hai, I agree to this, I disagree to this. Or let's assume I need more information on this. And once you're able to provide the information to him, and if he decides, yes, I want to go ahead and buy, then he will go and buy the stock.
What prompts analysts to do that job? Just probably a vague question.
Sorry, what?
What prompts analysts to go to do that analysis and all that, or what?
ये एनालिस्ट का काम ये उसको सेक्टर दिए जाते हैं ना. फॉर एग्जांपल एनालिस्ट, आप एक एनालिस्ट हो तो आपको 4 सेक्टर दे दिए जाएंगे. आईटी सेक्टर आपका है, बैंकिंग सेक्टर आपका है, फार्मा सेक्टर आपका है, एफएमसी सेक्टर आपका है. तो आपको आपके एज पार्ट ऑफ योर जॉब यू विल बी असाइन सर्टेन सेक्टर्स, जो यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है इस वाले पॉइंट पे. यू विल बी असाइन सर्टेन सेक्टर्स और सर्टेन कंपनीज की. मैं आपको कंपनी दे दी कि बच्चे मारुति आपका है, आईसीआईसीआई का है, आपको ऐसे कुछ सेक्टर्स में कुछ कंपनी दे दी. तो वो कंपनी का एनालिसिस करना आपकी जॉब है. That's the way
Okay.
you have been hired.
Okay.
ऐसा नहीं है कि उस कंपनी में अच्छा हो रहा है बुरा, अच्छा हो रहा है तो या पता लगा. अगर उस कंपनी में बुरा भी हो रहा है तो भी आपकी जॉब है पता लगाना.
Understood.
और क्यों? क्योंकि अगर बुरा हो रहा है तो भी आप अपने क्लाइंट को बताओगे भैया ये सेक्टर अच्छा नहीं है, इससे अवेयर रहो. और अच्छा हो रहा है तो भी आप अपने क्लाइंट को बताओगे कि ये सेक्टर में अच्छा हो रहा है, इसमें इन्वेस्ट करो. दीपक, एनी डाउट?
No, no. I already told that things are understood.
Yeah. Anybody else, any other question? Okay. Just again, I will spend probably 30-40 seconds again on this piece. To explain you, this entire journey is about equity research. The session name will not be equity research because last में एक session आएगा equity research का, वहां पे सिर्फ मैं एक wrap up करूंगा. बट ये जो टॉपिक्स लिखे हुए हैं, जो टूल्स लिखे हुए हैं, इनके इंडिविजुअल सेशंस होंगे. आई डू नॉट वांट एट द एंड जैसे कि इक्विटी रिसर्च का मेरा एक ही सेशन हुआ है, बिकॉज सीन वन बैच गेटिंग इनटू दैट मिस्टेक ऑफ सेइंग कि एक ही सेशन हुआ है. बट आपके अलग अलग सेशंस होंगे जिसके पास भी जाएंगे वो, of this ratio analysis, this forecasting, this modeling, valuation strategy, scenarios, ये सब के अलग अलग sections हो. So I just want to ensure कि we don't want to get into that mistake again of saying कि the ईमेल में जो दामनी साहब को आएगा उसमें रिसर्च का नाम नहीं लिखा, वो आखिरी में आएगा, where I will just wrap up everything, whether okay, once you do all these individual components, how do you bring all these individual components into one report? That's it. That's where you will see one session titled research, but still you are doing those individual sessions of these tools and techniques where it's technically you are prepared on the research only. So any I hope ये आपको समझ आ गया कि how this journey will go. चलिए ठीक है. In case no questions on this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Coming to the structure. Now once this client agrees and like the idea, then they will tell their trader to go and buy the stock or sell the stock. Now what's important here is why this is called as buy side trader. This is called as buy side trader not because this client, sorry, this client is so okay. So once the sales goes and pitch the idea to this client, this client can do three things, or this research report can have three recommendations. One is a buy stock, second is avoid, and third is sell the stock. So buy and sell, I think self-explanatory to you. Buy stock means you buy the stock, go long. Sell is short, आप sell कर दो. And avoid का मतलब होता है stay away, which means ये stock में कुछ ऐसा है जो आपकी risk appetite से different है, ठीक है, या कुछ ऐसी information है जो complete नहीं है, कुछ disturbing लग रहा है, कुछ ऐसा लग रहा है, so stay away, ठीक है. Don't buy and don't sell also, stay away just, ठीक है. Plus, so what happens once you put this buy, sell and avoid into the research report, यही जाके ये सेल्स वाला बंदा इस क्लाइंट को पिच करता है. यहाँ तक कोई डाउट?
No, sir.
So want to clarify, I mean, there is a company and there is a research analyst and a salesperson in that company. Then that, I mean, research analyst do all the sales and then goes to the salesperson, gives all the information. Then that salesperson is giving that information to a fund manager.
फंड मैनेजर तो मैंने अभी तक इंट्रोड्यूस ही नहीं किया था जानबूझ के. सो
I mean, it is return portfolio manager
तो
in
आपको
the.
मैंने बोला ना उसको छोड़ दो ना, आपके लिए तो मैंने जानबूझ के इसको क्लाइंट लिखवाया था ना. सी
Okay. I bit confused between the structures, sir.
नहीं सो हाँ आई नो, तो इसको भी ये हटा दो आप. आपके लिए क्लाइंट है, आपके लिए मतलब आप यहाँ बैठे हो, एनालिस्ट हो आप. This journey is preparing you for this role from a job market perspective.
Yeah.
So once the salesperson starts pitching the idea to the client, be it a buy, be it sell, be it avoid, ये बाय साइड क्यों है? बिकॉज ये क्लाइंट आपके आइडिया को बाय कर रहा है. अब वो आइडिया चाहे बाय हो, चाहे आइडिया वो सेल हो, या वो अवॉइड हो. Suppose if you tell, so suppose if the research analyst says sell and the client goes and convince and tells the client to sell the stock and the client agrees, okay, let me sell the stock, still it's called as buy side. Guys, it's very important. ये समझ आया? बाय साइड का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप स्टॉक बाय कर रहे हो। बाय
No,
साइड
that
का
is
मतलब है
fine, sir,
आप
but
आइडिया या रिकमेंडेशन बाय कर रहे हो। नाउ दैट रिकमेंडेशन इन टर्न कुड बी बाय और कुड बी सेल एज वेल। या पारुल,
so Kritika,
सॉरी कृतिका,
uh, yeah, I'm a bit confused. I mean, the we are selling our idea to the client, and then in turn, client is also selling the same thing to his client. This is confusing. He is
किसने?
taking the decision for himself or for their his
हिमसेल्फ
own. I mean,
हिमसेल्फ हिमसेल्फ हिमसेल्फ।
okay,
अभी आप भूल जाओ, ये कोई नहीं है पिक्चर में। ये तीन ही लोग हैं,
okay,
मैंने बताया था ना, 1 2 एंड 3। I know this diagram is not being prepared in a best of the way. That's why मैंने पहले ही सिर्फ थ्री रोल प्ले को डाला: एनालिस्ट, सेल्स डेस्क एंड क्लाइंट। Anybody else any other doubt? ठीक है, ये नीचे के 3 बुलेट पॉइंट पढ़ लीजिए आप लोग, सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी है, पढ़ लीजिए। 1 मिनट दे रहा हूँ आपको।
हेलो हेलो
ठीक है, so in case no questions, let's now look it from a portfolio perspective.
हेलो
या फर्स्ट।
हेलो सर। सर इसमें जो सेल साइड में जो एनालिस्ट है वो एक सेलर होगा या फिर एक एनालिस्ट जो एनालिसिस करने वाला होगा?
दोनों सेल साइड पे है ना, दोनों सेल साइड पे होते हैं।
दोनों साइड सेल साइड होगा।
दोनों साइड सेल साइड नहीं बोला मैंने, एनालिस्ट एंड सेल्स पर्सन बोथ आर ऑन द सेल साइड बोला, और जो क्लाइंट है वो बाई साइड पे होता है।
हाँ। और सर ये सेल्स डेस्क का क्या काम है?
क्लाइंट से बात करना।
ऑलराइट सर, क्लियर सर।
ना so let me see if that slide is there. Now let's assume, so Now, again, let's assume this is client, no portfolio manager. So sales analyst gives the idea to the sales. Research analyst gives idea to sales. Sales goes and pitch the idea to the client. Client likes the idea. Now let's clients have decided to buy. अब वो खुद तो बाय कर नहीं सकता, उसको किसी ब्रोकर के थ्रू जाना है. तो वो क्या करता है, इसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के एक ट्रेडिंग डेस्क भी होता है. वो उस ट्रेडर को बोल देता है ओके आप मेरे लिए ये स्टॉक बाय कर लो. यहाँ पे कोई डाउट? या तो ये डायरेक्टली ट्रेडर को बोल देता है, या कभी कभी ये सेल्स को भी बोल देता है और सेल्स वाला ट्रेडर को बोल देता है. बोथ हैपेंस इन अ प्रैक्टिकल वर्ल्ड. द इम्पोर्टेंट पीस इज कि वो इन्फॉर्मेशन ट्रेडिंग डेस्क पे पहुंच जाती है कि इस क्लाइंट को इतने स्टॉक खरीदने. There is any doubt to this point?
क्लाइंट सेल साइड की डेट डेस्क से पूछे कहेगा.
Sorry?
सर जो क्लाइंट है वो सेल साइड की डेट डेस्क से कहेगा या अपनी डेट डेस्क से कहेगा, बाय साइड वाली?
यार ये नहीं है पिक्चर में ना, मतलब आपको जो एरोस बना रहा हूँ वो देखो सिर्फ, ये है ही नहीं.
ओके.
और ये ट्रेडर क्या करता है, मार्केट में जाके ये ऑर्डर को एग्जीक्यूट कर देता है. और जब ये करता है तो ये जो ट्रेडिंग डेस्क है, ये जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, इस क्लाइंट से ब्रोकरेज चार्ज करती है, क्योंकि इस डेस्क ने क्लाइंट को हेल्प किया है ये ऑर्डर को एग्जीक्यूट करने में. अगर आपने सुनो लाइक आईसीआईसीआई, डायरेक्ट, शेर खान, एडएलबीसी, सब ब्रोकिंग फर्म्स है, तो उनका यही काम होता है. वो अपने क्लाइंट को रिसर्च देती हैं, क्लाइंट को रिसर्च पसंद आती है तो बोलता है खरीदो या बेचो, और वो खरीदने और बेचने पे उनको ब्रोकरेज मिलता है. एनी क्वेश्चन, एनी डाउट इन दिस? ठीक है. जो थोड़ा दूसरा सेटअप होता है, ठीक है, जहाँ पे क्लाइंट तो है बट ये एक सोफिस्टिकेटेड क्लाइंट लाइक अ पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर या लाइक अ फंड मैनेजर. ठीक है, सो सोफिस्टिकेटेड क्लाइंट है, सेम प्रोसेस होता है. ये एनालिस्ट इसको देता है, ये इसको देता है. फिर एक डिफरेंस होता है, ये डायरेक्टली इसको इसके खुद के ट्रेडर होते हैं, ये उस ट्रेडर को बोलता है खरीदो और वो ट्रेडर फिर आगे पास ऑन करता है. तो एक ये लेयर ऐड हो जाती है इन म्यूचुअल फंड्स और फंड मैनेजर सिनेरियो, जहाँ पे सोफिस्टिकेटेड क्लाइंट्स होते हैं, बिकॉज उनका खुद का ट्रेडर भी काफी एक्टिव स्ट्रैटेजीज बनाता है. ये दो
हेलो
तरीके से. हाँ फजल.
सर, ये जो प्रोसेस आपने दो तरीके से जो बताया, तो ये प्रोसेस किस केस में यूज किया जाता है? और वो ईयरली जो मैंने ईयरली आपने जो बताया इससे पहले, तो वो किस केस में यूज किया जाएगा?
जो फंड मैनेजर होते हैं, म्यूचुअल फंड्स होते हैं, पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर होते हैं, वो ये वाला यूज करते हैं. जो क्लाइंट
हम्म,
सोफिस्टिकेटेड क्लाइंट्स होते हैं, जो क्लाइंट बहुत मार्केट में बहुत ज्यादा अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं मार्केट को, ये वाला प्रोसेस यूज करते हैं जो सेकंड बता.
और इससे पहले वाला?
वो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स यूज करते हैं.
ऑलराइट, क्लियर सर.
ठीक है, anybody else any other doubt on this guys before we close this, because I want to ensure कि आपको ये piece समझ आ गया. ठीक है, last
एक
on this हाँ पारुल बोलो.
क्लाइंट डायरेक्टली सेल्स को ही बोल सकते हैं ना कि बाय और सेल वट एवर द सेल्स टीम इज सजेस्टिंग, इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग टू द ट्रेड डेस्क डायरेक्टली सेल्स को ही बोल सकते हैं ना ऑन द सेम कॉल.
आप बोल सकते.
ओके.
जो थर्ड सिनेरियो होता है, थर्ड सिनेरियो इज अ प्रॉप बिजनेस, है प्रोप्राइटरी ट्रेडिंग. उसमें ये कुछ नहीं है, कुछ लेना देना नहीं है इनका, भूल जाओ ये है. ठीक है. नाउ दिस रिसर्च एनालिस्ट gives directly a report to the trading desk, and let's assume this is organization ABC Limited. ठीक है, रिसर्च एनालिस्ट ने ट्रेडिंग डेस्क को इन्फॉर्मेशन दिया और ट्रेडिंग डेस्क ने खुद का मतलब एबीसी लिमिटेड के लिए जाके शेयर्स खरीद लिए मार्केट में. किसी क्लाइंट का कोई लेना देना नहीं है इसमें. So which means this trading desk has purchased the shares in on the name of ABC Limited, कंपनी के नाम पे. इसको प्रोप्राइटरी ट्रेडिंग बोलते हैं. Why this is called as proprietary trading? Proprietary means owner. इस स्टॉक का जो ओनर है वो कंपनी है, क्लाइंट नहीं है. उसको प्रोप्राइटरी ट्रेडिंग बोलते हैं.
प्लीज रिपीट वंस अगेन.
So sales वाले, so the analyst has shared that information with the trading desk, and trading desk ने वो information के basis पे कंपनी के लिए खुद के लिए ही शेयर्स खरीदे. जिस कंपनी के लिए वो काम करते हैं, let's assume the name of the company is ABC Limited, so assume this is Edelweiss. So इस एनालिस्ट ने ट्रेडिंग डेस्क को इन्फॉर्मेशन दिया और ट्रेडिंग डेस्क ने एडलविस के बिहाफ पे शेयर्स खरीद लिए, एडलविस के नाम पे. सो ओनर ऑफ द शेयर्स इज एडलविस, देन दिस इज कॉल्ड प्रोप्राइटरी ट्रेडिंग. और जो हमने इससे पहले वाला सेगमेंट देखा जिसमें वो ट्रेडिंग डेस्क क्लाइंट के बिहाफ पे खरीदता है, उसको क्लाइंट ट्रांजैक्शन या क्लाइंट बेस्ड बिजनेस बोलते हैं. एजेंसी बिजनेस भी बोलते हैं उसको. यूर एक्टिंग एज एजेंट. एजेंसी बिजनेस में आप क्लाइंट से ब्रोकरेज चार्ज करते हो, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस क्लाइंट का हो जाता है. प्रोप्राइटरी बिजनेस में प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस आपका होगा, बिकॉज प्रॉफिट होगा तो आपको मिलेगा, लॉस होगा तो आपको मिलेगा. अगर आपको याद हो, ये मैंने स्टार्टिंग में भी सिखाया था. ये वाली चीज अगर आपको याद हो, सिखाई थी आपको विलास.
यस.
ठीक है, चलिए तो इतना रखेंगे आज. कुछ पूछना है बिफोर वी क्लोज? हाँ जी, कुछ पूछना है बिफोर वी क्लोज?
Practically in M&A research and equity research का purpose might be different, but the content or the research part would be same, no?
Methodology or tools and techniques are same. The objective is different.
Yes, the objective might be different, but the methodology and the tools used for research will give the same output as in.
Yeah.
Okay.
चलिए ठीक है. In case no more questions, we'll continue tomorrow. So thanks. Bye. Take care.